As a director of the Fundamental Rights Agency, Mr. O'Flaherty is here today as a partner of Frontex. So how do you see the current cooperation between Frontex and the FRA?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be in Warsaw. It's my first visit to Frontex, and I'm coming in the spirit of a long-standing, really good relationship, which we're now intensifying. The basis for the relationship is the fact that all of us, all the EU institutions and agencies, share a responsibility with regard to fundamental rights, promoting them, protecting them, enhancing them, strengthening them for the people we serve. Frontex and FRA have worked well together on this basis for a number of years, and now in particular in the context of the migration crisis, we're finding ways to be of further support to you in the back room, advising, providing assistance to your many colleagues in the field and in headquarters, so that, as I said, they can do their very sensitive and vital work in a way that respects and builds up rights.
And what are, in your view, the most challenging fundamental rights related risks at the border today?
There are multiple risks at the borders, and I'd have to say that I'm impressed by the extent to which they've already been identified by colleagues in Frontex. For example, the situation of children. We know that many thousands of children are arriving in Europe unaccompanied, and there are very serious issues of child protection that need to be addressed. They have to be addressed from the very moment that child is rescued or received through the registration process into a framework of guardianship, and then onwards to a protective space in which they can thrive. This is one very important area. Another has to do with other categories of very vulnerable people, such as victims of trafficking, people who've been subjected to torture in the country of origin, all requiring very sensitive, rights-respectful responses from Frontex and from all of the other agencies and actors at the borders. There's also a need to build up an awareness of fundamental rights within the staff of agencies such as Frontex. Now, you've done great work on this. You have good training programs, good manuals. We were delighted to be able to assist you in developing those, and we intend to continue. And one area right now has to do with returns, involuntary return. We recognise that for an asylum system to work, people who are not deserving of international protection have to go home, and they have to go home quickly. But we have to send them home in a way that's respectful of their basic human rights and human dignity. And so we're working right now on developing protocols and associated training tools for people involved in involuntary return, as well as for those who will undertake the independent monitoring of those returns.
And how would you envisage your cooperation with Frontex in the years to come? I mean, what are the projects that you think that would be urgent to implement now, and what are the medium, long-term projects that you think are feasible?
Well, let me start with the most recent initiative of ours, which is that we're going to put on a rotating basis FRA staff in Greece, located at the European Regional Hub in Piraeus, where our staff will provide support and assistance to Frontex as well as to the other EU agencies to identify the protection issues and figure out how to respond to them in a meaningful way, but also in a real-time way, so that we respond to the issues when people need us. That's interesting. It's new for the Fundamental Rights Agency. It's a bit experimental. We don't engage like this on other topics, but we're very much looking forward to being able to work with your colleagues in the field so that we can provide the support they need when they need it. More broadly, we'll continue with the work we've always done, such as developing training tools, manuals, gathering data that's relevant to the situation of migrants, such as, for instance, the experience of integration of those migrants that have been received into EU member states, things of that nature. So it's, in a sense, it's more of the same, as well as some pretty innovative ways of working.
Well, thank you very much for your availability, and I hope to see you again in Frontex and continue this conversation.
Well, it's my real pleasure, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my visit today. I've learned a lot about what the agency does. You're building a remarkable story in Europe, and you deserve every possible support.